Hello, friends. Today's episode is brought to you by From Within Records. Nothing But Enemies and Hellbound are going on an Asia tour in 2025. So if you are in Seoul, Guangzhou, China, Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, please support those bands. It's such an awesome thing for any band to be able to tour Asia. If you're not subscribed to the From Within Records podcast, they just dropped episode 41 featuring Mikey Morales of Fortress Records. I'm such a huge fan of Fortress Records. I'm a huge fan of Collateral. So if you're not tapped in, please go boot up your Spotify, subscribe to the From Within Records podcast, and listen to everything they have going on over there. It's awesome. If you're not following From Within Records on social media, please boot up X, boot up Instagram, click that follow button to stay up to date on all the current news. And like I always say, please support From Within Records because they support us. If you're looking for high quality merch for your band or for your business, please hit up my friends over at Good Fortune Printing out of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. You can follow them on Instagram at Good Fortune Printing, or if you want to get in contact with them, please email them. contact@goodfortuneprinting.com. You can thank me later. Before we get into today's guests, it's the last episode of 2024. What a crazy year it's been for hardcore. I still can't get over that Sudden Demise demo. I really hope it's not over for that band because I'm just still hooked on it. I really enjoyed what they put out, and it just... I don't know why, but they just tapped into, like my type of hardcore. It's insane because like when I first heard that, I'm like, wow, this is so fucking sick. And then here I am at the end of the year, still listening to Sudden Demise, which is also featured on the last iteration of the Hardcore Caviar podcast for 2024. But so much good hardcore came out this year. The Next Level, and even new shit dropping in the final days of the year. It's insane. Hardcore never stops, just like this podcast. We will never stop. But it's been an awesome year, and I'm so happy that I'm still able to do this. And we're going strong. 2025, the first month, we got a lot of cool shit, which I can't speak on too much, but please just continue to pay attention. We got some awesome things lined up, which I'm still blown away. I'm like, wow, it's 2025. The schedule's looking bright. The support is amazing. So I cannot thank everyone who listens, everyone who gives me their time and comes on the podcast to hear me, ramble and pick their brain. I will never take that for granted. So I appreciate all of you, but 2025 is looking to be another good year. We're just going to keep the grind going. Looking forward to October, going back to Korea. That's all I think about, if I'm being honest. Whenever I feel down or I think life is tough, I'm just like, you know what? It's going to be worth it because October, we're going to be in Korea Part 2. We got so many cool things lined up, and that's literally my motivation. Obviously, there's a lot of cool things sprinkled in between. I'm sure at some point we're making our way back to Louisville. There's Wilkes-Barre in there a couple times, which I'm always excited for. I love my Wilkes-Barre friends. Shout out Nate, Matt, Caleb, Shane, Jeff. I fucking love Jeff. If I haven't made that clear already, I talk to Jeff so often. So shout out Jeff first. But 2025 will be really fun. I'm looking forward to all the cool things going on in hardcore. I'm looking to be surprised by new bands, like who will I be obsessed with next. It's going to be fun. But on today's episode, we had to track down our good friend, Dylan Wainwright. You might be familiar with Dylan. He's been on the podcast multiple times before. Always great conversations. Plays in a bunch of bands. Sings for Deal with God. They put out a new EP earlier this year titled The Bitter Die Hard. If you're not familiar, please hit pause, go boot up your Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Bandcamp, whatever. Go stream The Bitter Die Hard. Awesome EP. And it has me excited to hear what they have coming in the future. I've always been a fan of Deal with God. And if I can remember correctly, I was put on to Deal with God by my good friend Ron Hill. Shout out Ron Hill, former guest of the podcast. I'm sure he'll be on in the future, but put me on to Deal with God when the demo was out, and I was already vibing with what they had going on, and just to see them grow as a band over the years and get the recognition I feel like they deserve and play cool shows, and especially just the hard work that they put into their own local scene, Syracuse. That's why I continue to want to have Dylan on, because I'm a fan of what they have going on. I love to see the hard work getting put in and just seeing the results over the years. It's just so cool. And also there's such cool history with Syracuse. I'm a huge fan of Attitude from back in the day. Like whenever I think about Syracuse, I think about Attitude and Forfeit. And then even, bigger bands from more recent, like Trail of Lies. There's always cool stuff going on in Syracuse, and it's very awesome just to see the people up there putting in the work to, make it a destination. So shout out Syracuse. One of my favorite parts of my conversation with Dylan on this episode is when we just talk about Trail of Lies. I tell this funny story about my interaction with Tom Dom at this most recent LDB, and it just kind of led us down this rant about Trail, which was fun. But please, I hope all of you had an amazing year. And if you didn't, it's all good, because tomorrow is 2025 and you get another shot at having a great year if you didn't have one in 2024, which I'm hoping all of you did. I hope your holidays were great. Life is so awesome, right? There's so many great things going on. And if you're if you're having trouble finding the fun or the enjoyment in life, I pray that you're able to find it just like me, because I'm going to Korea again. And that's all I think about. It's fun. But please go support Syracuse Hardcore, support Deal with God. Go stream The Bitter Die Hard, and then come back here and listen to Dylan and I talk about a bunch of cool stuff. So please strap in, enjoy this conversation. Without further ado, welcome Dylan Wainwright to the show.
1, 2, 3.
All right, and we're recording. Welcome back to the podcast. Dylan, how's it going?
How's it going with you, man? I'm chilling.
We're just here at the, tail end of 2024. So I'm happy you were down to answer the call. I'm always interested in what's going on up in Syracuse. So I'm happy that you're here today. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So more recently, All for All, Deal with God, you guys just played a holiday toy drive in Wilkes-Barre. So I'm just curious to hear about what that experience was like, because I'm just a big fan of that area.
So All for All actually had to end up dropping because Spat had family come in super last second, and he's like, I can't play the show. But Deal with God ended up playing. From what Clemo told me, a lot of people donated, which is awesome. Show was cool. It was good seeing friends and whatnot. It was cool finally seeing Stockpile, who I've been friends with for a bit. And we had all the Syracuse Rugrats come up for the gig. All the Fatal Consequences X Threat kids just come up. So it was like cool to have them like, just roll deep in a car and kick it with us and whatnot. So it was cool. It was seeing friends, obviously, like it's like the end of the year. So like shows are kind of like hit or miss because like people either have like family plans or whatever. But, for a Wilkes-Barre show, it was pretty good because I know like Wilkes-Barre is like kind of like at a like transitioning period right now. So it was a lot of like the old guard and like a lot and like newer kids like coming up to like us and be like, oh, like we just heard about you guys, blah blah blah. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was good seeing a lot of people. So.
And I'm happy that I saw the Instagram post, and the caption was Jerry's for Christmas, and there's always that debate. Oh, are you an Angelo's guy or a Jerry's guy? And I lean towards Jerry's, so I just love that caption.
I'm a Jerry's in the evening, Angelo's like midday kind of guy. Like I'll go. Like after a gig, I'll go to Jerry's. For like before a gig, I'll go to Angelo's. This time I went to Jerry's before and after. Like I went before, picked up pizza, brought it to the gig, and then we all went after. Angelo's, like I always went to Angelo's until everyone was like, "Oh, you got to go to Jerry's." It's pretty much the same thing. Like so, like. I'd have to say Jerry's because I go there more, but like deep down I'm an Angelo's guy. But Angelo's is more fun when you're like driving to New York City and you're like, yo, let's stop and get like Angelo's on the way. I remember one time, like I think it was, I forgot what show it was that my fiance and I. Actually, I think it was when we saw Lust for Youth in New York City on my birthday. On our way back up, we stopped at Angelo's, and then I realized that like Anxious and One Step Closer were playing. It was like I think it might have been like one of the like a record release or something, but like they were playing a show at Carl Hall, and like I bumped into people like obviously wearing hardcore shit. I was like, oh damn, like. What's up? Like, I don't know these people, but I'm like, oh, cool. Like, all at Jerry's, like, was there like something happening or whatever? And they're like, oh, yeah, this show. I was like, oh, fuck. I wish I knew I could have hit both, like on the way up. I don't know if it was when I saw Lust for Youth or if it was when I can't remember. It was like my fiance and I, we were just coming back from New York City from like some gig, but it was like funny because I was just like, oh, shit, like this was happening. But yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. Jeff Feet First and I, we had gone to Philly during the day to go film some interviews. And on the way back, he was like, oh, like, what do you want for dinner? I was like, dude, Jerry's. Like, don't even ask. Like, let's just go to Jerry's. And we got there. It was the evening. And literally, Jeff and I walk in, place our order. And then, like, next, group of people that walk in and just hardcore dudes. And we're just like laughing, right? This is such a great experience. And that was my first time ever like actually going to the brick and mortar location. Because normally like I just, people would pick it up and bring it to wherever we were at. So like I never got to go there. So it's like my first experience. Like we like, walk in order and like the next people that walk in are just like more hardcore kids. And I'm like, this is so awesome. It was like a random like Thursday night. Yeah.
Cause it's usually a nightmare. Like during a show or whatever to like go in, wait for your order. And just like, and Angelo's is like almost like a hallway, like it's very, very small. So like making everything like all these people fit in one tiny, like you even go in the bathroom, bathroom's like literally like an airplane bathroom. It's so fucking like disjointed and small. It's like kind of hysterical. But yeah, like you're better off just ordering and picking up like most of the time. When the Hive existed, it was awesome because you could just like, it's either a band that you're like, oh, I've seen this band, I'll go get Jerry's, or you'll like order during a band and then when they're done, immediately go pick it up and then like you're good. So like man, I missed the Hive. The Hive was awesome. That was like one of the dopest venues ever. But it was like win-win because it was literally across the street from fucking Angelo's. But Jerry's is like kind of a little bit out of the way, so it's also a nightmare. But like not a nightmare, but it's also it's less of a nightmare because like people don't like pack in there because it's like a larger location.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's kind of out of the way of like anything you want to do in Wilkes-Barre or want to go. So it's like, oh shit, we got to get this beforehand or after. But yeah, either way, like there's a will, there's a way. I feel like every single time we play Wilkes-Barre, it like doesn't matter like what the show is, we'll always say yes just to get Jerry's or Angelo's. But
yeah, like for me, like I'm always just like looking for an excuse to go.
Yeah. It's the sweet sauce, man. It's the best. There's a couple sweet sauce deniers in Syracuse that I will not out, but sweet sauce is amazing. I'm not one of those deniers, but
yeah. And you mentioned the Hive. That it was short lived. Sadly, I never got to experience any shows there, but I was able to walk through there, like because they still had. It was like right at the end of like the lease where they were kind of like cleaning up and just getting everything out of there. So just being in there and just like thinking about like the shows that had happened, they're like, damn, this would have been so cool to have been able to experience some of them.
One of the hottest venues I've ever experienced too. Like I would say like the 3 like hottest like venue experiences in my life were like, I want to say the show that Standalone played at the Hive this past year when Deal With God played the Warehouse in Richmond, Sweatbox, Silver Street downstairs in the summer, our practice space in the summer, and I feel like the 5th hottest is like Gold Sounds when Fury played. Like those were like the 5 hottest venues, and I just remember like being in the Hive during like One Step Closer or whatever, and like it's like packed, and I'm like I'm watching from the back because it's cooler, not because it's like too crazy. It's just because like the closer you get to the stage, it's just like everyone is sweating, like it's like humid, like a sauna. And the closer you get, you're just like, you're losing air as you get like closer to people. And I'm like, holy fucking shit, this is insane. And that was in the winter too, which was even crazier. But yeah.
Yeah. A lot of those times I was like, dude, I just need to get out of here. This is not worth it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's awesome. Like that's always like kind of like the allure sometimes, just like the chaos and like how like you can feel the energy and the heat, but like sometimes I'm just like, oh my fucking God. Like when we played the Warehouse, there were times where I was just like, I'm happy we played early in the day. Like I remember talking to like Jay, and he's just like, dude, I hope I can get through this set. It's fucking like, because it was just all like, it was packed to the brim with people, and like Mind Force goes on, and I'm like literally standing like next to the stage. I'm like, I can't do anything because I like feel my like jeans are just like liquid. It was insane.
Yeah, that reminds me of the show that I went to. This was like back in like 2008. Down to Nothing did like, it was like one of their only like West Coast shows. It was like in December. They played at this venue in Canoga Park called the Cobalt Cafe, and I just remember it just being really hot, and then after the show's over, like going outside and just seeing my friends, like you can just see the heat just radiating off their body. It looked like, have you ever watched Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah.
Okay, so it looked like they were powering up to be Super Saiyan because it was just like this white outline like around their body, and it was just like the craziest thing
or whatever, or
yeah.
Like steam.
Yeah, everybody was just like steaming because we just came out, because everybody was like obviously just going wild for Down to Nothing, and it was just so crazy because I never experienced that, and like to this day I haven't seen that again.
Oh yeah, that's so funny. It's funny you make the Super Saiyan reference.
Yeah. Okay. Deal With God earlier this year released a record. the Bitter Die Hard. Can you talk about, what it's been like since the record's come out, since, it's been out for a while at this point?
It's awesome to finally have it out. People for the most part tend to like enjoy it. Like a lot of people have said it's like some of the best stuff we've done. And it took us a while to like finish it and get it out and like have everything finalized. And definitely like sorry. It's gotten us the traction that we need, like as a band. Like people are definitely like starting to like wise up to like what we're trying to do. And it's just awesome to finally have something that's like not just like a demo or whatever. Like this is the first time we actually I've been a part of something that like is a substantial like body of work. And yeah, I mean I'm just excited for like everything that's been happening. We did a couple runs recently. We went to Equinox, which was awesome. Yeah, just a lot of like really cool opportunities kind of came from it. And like, the people who have been like very supportive, like in this like kind of new era, have like really like rode for us and like given us like amazing opportunities, which like we're all like super, super like thankful for. Like, playing that one show with Mind Force in like Brooklyn and then doing like 2 days with them in like Baltimore and Richmond, and then like playing Equinox and, having like hanging out with like our friends in like Yultanon and shit like that. And like being able to play Tampa with them. And it's just been awesome. And like, like playing the showcase, like the Fear showcase was awesome. And just like like all of our friends have just like, who've been riding for us from the beginning, have just like continued to ride for us. And it's been awesome. It's been really awesome. And like the band, it's rocky when you like are from an area that's like kind of out of the way, and like you're kind of starting from the ground up. So like we never really had like a hype reaction, you know what I mean, in terms of like when we put something out and people are like, oh, so it's been like a gradual like progression. And we've had, like I said, we've just been getting a lot of great opportunities. Like we played Burning Lord record release, which was awesome. We were just like thankful, and it's been dope.
And while you were creating this record, did you guys ever think like, okay, like this is going to be the one that kind of puts us over, and we're going to get like more opportunities, which I think you guys deserved?
It was honestly like when we were kind of making the record, everything was just like, we have no idea what the fuck is gonna happen, because like we've been a band for like quite a bit at that point, and like there's no like guidebook to this shit. Like there's no like you never realize that like there isn't really any like pathway, like especially when you're doing everything on such a like DIY bare bones level. Like you just anything is anything. Like you don't expect, your expectations are so beyond low, whether it's like reaction. Like I'm happy like nobody hated it. You know what I mean? Because like you're in such a like an oversaturated like time of like metallic hardcore, and like everyone's doing this, that, and the other thing. And then like, now there's like the metalcore boom, and there's like a shit ton of beatdown bands, and you can kind of get like pigeonholed a bit, it like in this like fodder of all these new bands coming out and all these like people like just doing kind of like a paint by numbers version of like metallic hardcore. And like for me, like I like metallic hardcore, but like it's stemming from like a traditional rudimentary like hardcore perspective. Like I feel like a lot of people get into hardcore through like a more like through like metal and through like a heavier lens, which is fine. It's like no dig, but like, you know, that's when you get like just complete emphasis on like how heavy it is, or how many breakdowns you have, or, you know, like all these like, for lack of a better term, like arbitrary things, when like my main focus is just like lyrics and the energy of it. And I mean, like, for the most part, it is a fast hardcore record. Like almost every song has like a DB on it. Like it is like true, like we're a hardcore band. And like, it's, you know, in this modern landscape of hardcore where like the default is heavier hardcore, it's kind of hard to like be like, yo, we're just a hardcore band. We just so happen to like have a lot of metal influence, than to like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, we are, like, for better or for worse, a metallic hardcore band, but the things that like we do have so much more roots in like just like straightforward hardcore. Like, I mean, like we had like a song, like the last song, Changing Faces, like the tentative like notes title for it was Motorhead song, because we're like, oh, this is like the like, it was just straight old school, like, you know, like Motorhead DB kind of like mentality, you know what I mean? And then just so happen to have like breakdowns like here or there, you know what I mean? But and then obviously, like, you know, like a lot of Buried Alive is in there, like as like someone like as a band from upstate New York, like that is kind of like the blueprint for like dark metallic hardcore in our area. And yeah, I'd say like that's like where we pull a lot of notes from is stuff like Buried Alive and All Out War and whatnot, which like those guys all fucked with Cro-Mags and shit like that. Like there's a lot of that in the DNA than just like, oh, look at all these like crowbar riffs we ripped off, and oh, look at all these like, I don't know, like trying to think of a good example, like, oh, we're trying to sound like 2000s like moshcore band, or you know what I mean? So it's like trying to find your way in like the lack of better terms regular hardcore world as a heavy band, when things are so like that now, is like kind of like trying to find your place in like an oversaturated like time in hardcore is hard, because like everyone's got their heavy band or whatever. Everyone's trying to do, you know, like that is like I said, that is the default now, is like heavy shit. So trying to like make a not a statement, but like mark like a footnote in the greater scale of hardcore is like, you know, it's challenging, but you know, as long as we keep doing what we're doing, like the people who support us like who understand what we're trying to do as a band, like it just shows like in the grand scheme of things. And I think that's like, not to ramble, but I think that's like the kind of like what we've like been learning at like as a newer band, or relatively newer band, is like just kind of like the more we push, like it will pay off. And like this band, no matter like how many like bunk shows we play, or like, you know, how many like mixed reactions we get, like it will pay off, because like the people who fuck with us and understand, like it takes time. And thankfully with this new record, like people are starting to understand like what we're trying to do, and what Deal With God is as a band, both conceptually and musically, and, you know, hopefully lyrically, because that's a big proponent of the band.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your guys' style, because yeah, it is very easy to get lost, and not even just with like heavy stuff. Obviously, like heavy stuff is the predominant, like, you know, sound in hardcore these days, but I do feel like there's this slow shift that's happening, right? Like there's like that band Face the Pain that just, you know, newer band, like shit like that, like just the fast stuff's coming back, but just, you know, just like you said, we just had to give it a little bit of time. And you know, and it's hard too, because I also feel like bands sometimes just have bad timing, but I feel like you guys have good timing, because like there's, you know, you could have like the best sound, but just be in the wrong, like, you know, period of hardcore. But yeah, I just really appreciate like what you guys are doing, because you guys aren't like, you know, like super heavy, which is I think is awesome, because I actually do like, you know, I always lean towards like the faster stuff. So yeah, really like what you guys are doing.
What Colin Flynn said is like being the heavy band for all the green pants hardcore kids, and like that made so much sense in my brain. Like the regular, straightforward, like no frills, like hardcore shit. Like that's kind of like just what we all grew up with, and what we all like, you know, that's our world, you know what I mean? Like, so that's and obviously like being an all for all, like it's you start to like, I feel like you start to see like everything kind of like mesh together, like being kind of in both worlds, because obviously like being on Afira and like being a heavy band, you play with like more like metalcore bands and whatnot, and then with all for all, like very rarely we play like it's very rare that we're like the token fast band, because like we're playing with like, you know, a bunch of just like straightforward like hardcore bands and shit like that. Like we'll play with like Cut Down, or we'll play with like Wreckage, Combust, like just typical like hardcore, you know what I mean? So you know, it seeing like that, like Syracuse is like a very multifaceted like scene, where you can, instead of like having your scene be its own box, like it's bits and pieces from the different box all hodgepodged into one. And like you see it with like all the other bands that are coming out. Like in Syracuse you have like Fatal Consequences, which is like trying to do like very like old, like mid 2000s like moshcore shit. And then you have Nature Unveiled, which is like napalm death with like more emphasis on hardcore. And then you have X Threat, which is just like a fast straight edge band. And there's a new band that's like members of like all the Syracuse bands called like SYR Headhunters, which is just trying to do like just hardcore, like straightforward hardcore, you know what I mean? Like covering Negative Approach, covering SSD, covering Sick of It All, just like hardcore with a capital H. And then you have like Street Hassle, All for All, Deal with God, Ashara. Like it's very much like everyone kind of like has their own like tastes and whatnot, but like anything works now, which is awesome. Because you take a look at like the Trail record release, like 3 Knee Deep's reaction was the exact same energy as All for All's reaction, and they could not be like the most different bands on that bill. So it's cool. It's cool that like it just represents hardcore as a whole rather than just like a tiny niche. So, and I think that's what Deal with God wants to like from the beginning, just like be like, hey, we're just a hardcore band. Like, don't box us into any like niche. We're a hardcore band through and through.
And I think it's awesome that just your scene is able to just appreciate, you know, all the genres and not just, you know, kind of cast out a couple and, you know, show favor to one, but to be able to have the scene just rock with like everything. I think that's so sick.
Yeah. I mean, that's when I grew up, like you did like, I grew up in a small scene where you got what you got. So like, you're either going to see like, I was thankful enough to like see a band like Savage Heads, but then also see a band like Thick as Blood. You know what I mean? And it's like, you had to enjoy everything, or else you're gonna not enjoy majority of it. So it's either all or none. So that's kind of like how I always viewed everything, and that's truthfully like how I view like finding content in, like hardcore, because like there's so many people who are like, oh, hardcore is dead. It's like, you just didn't find your pocket. Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
Like, like you're like mad that there's like you're tight about a band like Torture being like so big. There's like a fucking Burning Lord in your city and you just don't know it. There's a fucking like a like Public Acid like next door. Like, just if you really only like a specific subset, just focus on that. Like, don't focus on like, I don't know, the band that you don't even like in the first place. Like, I know I can be kind of a hypocrite because like I definitely have my opinions on stuff, but like,
for sure,
I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, like if you don't like a specific subset of hardcore, like, and that's like not your shit, like, it's not dead. You're just not in you're just in the wrong zone. Like, luckily, like for me, like, I usually like everything. Like, I have, or at least like a band out of every subset. So it's like, I'm able to find like obviously there should be a balance. I literally like have been to shows where it's all fast bands and I'm like, okay, give me a bounce part here or there. Like, give me something. Or I'm like at like a fucking moshathon. I'm like, okay, like I'm getting bored. Like, cool. People are being insane and killing each other. All right, I need something. I need some broccoli. I had too much candy. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be like that balanced diet to like kind of feel fulfilled in anything, especially if you come from a small scene.
100%. I was in the same boat because I grew up out in like the Palm Springs area. And, my buddy Steve Kipple, who was doing shows back in the day, he was like, the attendance was so poor, he was having to like, pay bands out of his pocket just so that they could leave happy and would want to come back and tell their friends about this weird place. There would be shows happening in Indio, Thousand Palms, Cathedral City, whatever. But we were just happy to have a show, right? Because it's just like, we loved the music so much, like, and we would drive like an hour and a half, 2 hours to the Inland Empire to Orange County, LA for shows, but we just always would appreciate shit so much more when it would come to our hometown, because it's like, oh, we can drive 20 minutes across town for a show, like, we've never heard of that, like, this is awesome. So so I can totally understand that mindset. But real curious, you mentioned Thick as Blood. When you got to see them, was it when they had 4 singers, or was it just down to when they had 1?
Oh, it was their last tour, so it was just 1 singer.
Oh,
like
okay.
That when they had like 3 singers and shit. That was like way before. I'm only 27, so like I got the tail end of that. I still have the hoodie from that show. I was like 14, I think 14. Or 13. Yeah, I think it was 14 or 15. I can't remember, but it was like 2000. I want to say 20, like early 2013 or 2012. No, 2013. Because it was like right as I started actually going to shows. I remember my mom dropping me off, and like there's a photo that I like posting every now and then of like the sink at the Flying Squirrel just being covered in blood.
That's crazy.
That was like the first time I've actually experienced like a scary show.
Okay.
Where like I'm the only like kid there, like the only like high school. Well, there's this other kid that was there, but he was like going to shows before me, so he was already like well seasoned and like friends with everybody. But like it's just me, this like dorky kid with like a flannel shorts and like a beanie and like all these scary dudes with like face tattoos who are just like, It's like it was definitely like a wait for the breakdown, and then like everyone is punching each other in the face. Like it was literally like it was like honestly like looking back, like I am glad I experienced that, but I never want to experience that shit ever again, because like it's the caveman era, and like I like to think we're beyond that, but it is what it is. It was fun though. It was like exciting because I just remember going to school like after and being like, oh my god, like you'll never. And then I think I like tried showing people videos of it, and they like just were like, what? I don't get this. I don't understand because like everyone thinks moshing is like pushing and shoving and going crazy, and I'm like, no, like everyone's standing until like a heavy part, and then they're literally like fist fighting. And it was definitely like one of those shows that like if anyone else went to that show, they definitely would never want to go again. But for some reason, I was just like, this is exciting. This is crazy. And it like, I don't know. It was definitely like growing up in Rochester was like definitely like gave me the thicker skin to kind of last in hardcore. Cause like I was like very much into like Youth of Today and like Minor Threat, and like I just started like listening to like Terror and stuff, so I understood heavier stuff, but this was like a whole different like ball game, and I was just like, oh, okay, so this is how they do it in Rochester, and it was just like, wow. And yeah, definitely like it definitely put some hair on your chest. Because I also was like the kid, like no one knew. Everyone was like, who the fuck is this kid? Like I didn't know, but like I like tried talking to people because I was just like, I was like, oh, here's like the scary face tattoo guy. I'm gonna try to have a conversation with him, and just so he knows who I am. And so, you know, I don't know. And then we ended up being friends, and then now we're not friends anymore, but that's a different story. But yeah, it was learning experience.
Now I'm serious. How did you even find out about a show like that? Because you know, if that's something that's not what you were used to going to. How did you even end up, you know, finding out or seeing the flyer, or how did you even end up going there?
Well, I knew what was going on. I had gone to like a couple shows before that. And like I went to, I think that was like my third show, maybe like third actual like hardcore show. Cause I went to one that was like smaller, and it was like, there's like a local Christian straight edge band played.
Okay.
I don't know. And then like, there was the like reunion for this band called something Endangered Youth, which they were more of like a like weird like I metalcore, and like the like not in like the way like people see metalcore now. Like they were just like a metallic hardcore band that had like some chaotic parts here or there. And like that was, I think, my second show, or no, I went to my first show was in Buffalo, New York at the funeral home, like my first hardcore show, because I've been going to like ska shows and shit before that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to a local show. I think I went to that show that I was talking about at Flying Squirrel, the one with the Christian straight band. And then I went to a show at Dublin Underground, which was like, I only went like for two bands. It was this band Holy War's first show, which that ended up being a band I like loved growing up. Like the singer became like my barber for a bit before I moved to Syracuse. And you know, it was like that they were like the dark band, you know what I mean? Like the singer would like take a razor and cut his forehead open and shit like that.
It's crazy.
Like, the singer Chris was like really into wrestling and shit.
Okay.
Like he like would do shit like he would bash it. The first show he bashed his head until like with a microphone until it bled and shit. But my thing was like, oh man, no one's moshing because it was like all old dudes. Like that's what kind of roster was. And then there's a band called like Live Fast, Die Fast or whatever, which was like a bunch of old guys from I think like New York City played, and like no one was moshing. And like I only went to the show because my parents went out for dinner, and they're like, when we're done, we're picking you up. And I wanted to stay the whole show, but it was like at a bar. I almost didn't get let in, but I was wearing an Inside Out hoodie that I got on Rev HQ. And the guy who goes by the name Sketchy Dave was like, how the fuck did you get that hoodie? Like, they never seen me before. I like didn't know who these people were. And like, he's like, I shouldn't let you in, but like, I'll let you in. Just like, I know you're probably not drinking because you're probably most likely straight edge. So you're good. And then I remember just standing there waiting for bands to start. And then my man, Bill Steiner, this guy walked up to me with a Bane crew neck and wearing flip-flops, shook my hand and was like, hey, are you new? Like, is your first show? Like, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't my first show, but it was like, oh, hey, my name's Bill. Like, he was like super nice and like came up to me and was like, hey, what's good? Like, and I was like, oh, cool. Like, this guy, older dudes being nice to me, which full circle moment when we played Pittsburgh on the run with like Ashara and Discontent and Balmora. Like, he hits me up because he lives in Pittsburgh now. He's like, yo, if you guys need a place to stay, like, I got you. And I was just like, oh shit, fuck yeah. Like, that's my old head right there. Like, it was awesome. And then we got to stay at his house, and like, he has like a really nice house in Pittsburgh with his like wife and shit. And then it was just awesome. It was a really like awesome full circle. Like, that's what's awesome about hardcore moment is like this guy that I met when I was literally in high school at a show. The one guy who came up and said hi to me and was like, oh my God, like, this is a new kid. I'm going to make him feel welcomed. And like, I'm staying at his house while I'm on tour is like, as that's why hardcore is like so fucking cool. But yeah, he came to the show and whatnot. And yeah, but that show that I went to was like, I remember leaving being like, this shit kind of sucks. Like, this is not like the YouTube videos I'm watching. Like, this was like boring. No one was moshing. I was so excited to go. I was also terrified. I just remember just like, there's another kid named Charles. I knew him because he was an upperclassman at the school that I like, private school that I went to, but he got kicked out because he was a bad boy. And like I saw him and he was the only guy I knew. So like I experienced that and I was like, okay. So starting to build a picture of like what Rochester is like. It was all scary face tattoo guys. And like every now and then a guy who was like a little more clean cut. And I'm like, okay, I'm at like the end of an era. Like that's when I noticed I'm like, okay, this is the end of an era. Cause there's like, it's a bunch of people here. And like, obviously, like now as I move forward, there was like Penny Arcade era, which is where all like the fights happened, which is like the venue, like, where like all the like Amir would play and shit like that. And then there was like the wild punk shit, which was like Roy Van Grohl, who sang in like Achilles and How We Are and Standfast and all that stuff. In those bands like Wolves, like all like the straightforward, like more positive hardcore shit. Like that was the other scene. And like the end of the era was like those worlds being like, oh, we're the only people left. I guess we're here. And yeah. And that's when I was like starting to go to shows. So like and then I started going to more shows. And that's when like the Thick as Blood show came, because I was like, oh, okay, like this is just like a weird, because it was like a reunion for another band called, I think it was like it was Dawn of War, which was like the old, like they were kind of like a 100 Demon style kind of band from Rochester. And yeah, so it was just like obviously like it was early in the show, and then no one was really moving. And then I go to the Sick as Blood show, and I'm like, okay, people actually do mosh. They just like don't do it in the way that I'm used to seeing, like on the internet or at the other shows that I had been to. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much how I've kind of like that was like how I experienced. Like I'm kind of glad that I kind of experienced like hardcore kind of being whack and still going to shows, because I was like, I know there's like the stuff that I like out there, but I'm not gonna wait till it happens. I'm like, I need to do something. So like it made me appreciate things a little bit more, especially when like the stuff that I'm really excited about comes. I'm even more appreciative because, you know, like, oh, this is like an opportunity to like make kind of like show people like, oh, this is the cool shit. Like, this is the shit that's dope. Like, this is what my generation's into. Maybe you guys can like make the scene a little bit more welcoming to that. But then I grew up and realized, oh, I just have to do it myself. And that's where we are now. But yeah.
Well, it's a lot of progress, you know, because and it's cool too that you got to see that. Yeah, hardcore, it's not always going to be bangers, right? There's going to be some duds here and there, which is fine. Again, I feel like that makes you appreciate the good shows even more.
Right. Like, it still had a lot of fun because you make the most of it. But like, I think it was like when I finally went to like This Is Hardcore, and I was like, oh shit, everyone's like wearing like current contemporary like band, like, oh wow, someone's wearing a Stick Together shirt. Wow. Oh, someone's wearing a fucking like the least ugly like I don't know, Cruel Hand shirt. Like, wow. People actually like hardcore. Like people are singing along to like a Bad Brains cover. This is crazy. You know what I mean? So like I said, once you finally like kind of like live through like the kind of whack shit and like push through, inevitably you'll find the stuff that like appeals to you more. So like, I don't know, it's been like, as I'm like been going to shows for like over 10 years now, it's like, oh, it's been a long ride and I'm still fucking here. So I guess like nothing can be worse than like some of the wackest shit I've seen. So like, I'm just excited for a lot of things usually, because like I'm like, oh wow, like I grew up in a city that like didn't have, and now Rochester is awesome. Like Rochester has a lot of kids that are like starting bands and like like understanding what hardcore is, and like see it for more of like an actual culture than just like an excuse to like punch each other in the face. You know what I mean? So it's like cool as like someone being like removed from Rochester for a while to like see from the outside. Like there's like dope bands. Like there's a band Torrent that just started. There's a band called Contraband, which is like older guys, but like it's just straightforward, real deal hardcore. There are these young kids called Deep Disdain that are awesome. They're like doing more like heavy like metalcore shit, but like they got the spirit. It's awesome. Yeah, no, it's just cool seeing like a group of young kids like do shit in a city that I grew up in. But
yeah, I feel like that's just the most important thing. Like, even if like young kids aren't putting out the best music, but it's like, hey, at least they're trying, because you know, it might not, this band might not be the one, but if you know they you know continue, maybe it'll get better, or maybe they'll be like, all right, cool, like let's just kind of pack it up, but then they'll start something new, right? And then they'll just take that knowledge from the first band and just kind of you know, kind of be a couple steps ahead. But yeah, I think it's really cool when there's just new kids popping up just doing shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, I think mainly like when it comes to like hardcore, like it's so easy to get bummed out by like you know, just feeling as if like, especially now when like, you know, like bands are asking for more money, the economy sucks, so it's like harder to like do, like it's harder to tour, it's harder for bands to do full US's, like bands barely even do full US's.
Yeah, it's rare.
And like, so that means like a lot less like hardcore is coming to someone's city. So people are, you know, thankfully there's people like I look out in like, you know, places like in like the Midwest or whatever that like don't really get banned, or even like Canada. Like we've been recently playing a lot, like that band One Track Mind from Montreal is awesome because like they're just excited to like they played the States. I think that might have been the first time they ever played the States. They played the Anxious show last night, which was like our last show before the end of the year. And like, you know, we played with them in Toronto, and just like seeing Toronto, like we were the only non-Canadian band on the bill, and everyone was just fucking going like popping off. It was awesome because like you see people have their own ecosystem because they're like, yeah, we don't have like when Deal with God played Montreal, it was like everyone was just like so stoked, and we're not a big band at all. Like we didn't even like, we just put out the record. Like it got like, it was us, God Skin Peeler, and like Cold Kiss, like three like more like smaller upstate New York bands are doing a run together, and it was just like such a fun time because like you see this area that like everyone was saying, yo, no one comes here, no, like barely any bands come here, because obviously it's hard to get into Canada when you don't like have visas or whatever, like playing music. So it's cool seeing like those ecosystems kind of like when we like, also like when we played fucking like All for All and Street Hassle, when we did the run with Yield to None, we played Ohio, and it's like, you know, Cleveland, like obviously Cleveland has its history with like OLC and Integrity and Ringworm and all those bands, but like this is like obviously very separate. This is a like whole different era. And you just see people just like, you know, singing along, like they had like the local band headline, and like everyone was singing along and popping off to like the local band. It was like, oh yeah, because like when you're in an area that people like kind of like overlook, like you just got to do it. And that's what we were doing for the longest time, was like touring packages don't want to come to Syracuse, so we're just gonna do it until they want to. And you know, now obviously like Syracuse is what it is because we made it happen.
And just want to touch back. You briefly mentioned Trail of Lies. You know, I honestly didn't think they would come back, but the fact that they did, I'm like, this is crazy. And and it's cool too because I love Tom Harris, really great guy.
That's the homie right there.
Yeah, Tom Harris is awesome. But I do want to tell you a funny story. I was at LDB earlier this year, and I was like working the LDB records table. I was just like helping them out, and where we were positioned, it was like right by like the main doors to walk into the like venue area where the bands were playing, because like we were like in the merch room, and I was just kind of standing by the doors, just you know, it was like somebody had just ended, and Tom Dom is walking by, right, and I don't know him personally. I just know who he is just because of like the bands that he's played in. And he was walking by, and I was like, I have to say something. So like the first thing that came to my mind is like, because he had already walked past me, right? So like I'm looking at the back of him, and I just yell forfeit as loud as I can. And he turns around so fast, and I just start laughing because I didn't even think he would react, but he just like turned around and looked, and I just started laughing, and then he just kind of like just gave me this weird smirk and just like walked off. But I was like, I hope he appreciated that, because I fucking loved Forfeit, but I never got to see them. But I wish I could. That band was fucking awesome.
I never got to see Forfeit either, dude. Tom Dom's a homie, man. He's awesome. Like he has been like a major supporter for like all of our shit from like the beginning. Like when Deal with God first came out, he was just like really stoked on us, and it, like seeing what we had been doing like was part of the reason why Trail was like he was just like, damn, like because he was like kind of like it's easy to get like in your own head post pandemic about shit and get bummed out. And like, cause you're like, oh damn, like so much time has passed, so much like, why would I want to keep like, why would I want to stink up the stage and keep doing it? But like, it was cool that like the time like we spent like when he would come visit like Syracuse and shit, and like kind of like this mutual like energy of like, oh damn, like, they're doing cool shit, and made him, want to do trail again. And like, I think like the record that they put out was like the best thing they've ever fucking put out. And like, I think like it's super hard to come back after like years when like so much like since Trail Lies, so much in hardcore has changed. So like, and I think it was like TD or JD or one of the two said was like, we're like approaching this like we're a new band, because like for the most part, none of these kids know who, like there's like a whole generation of kids who would like have no idea about like the big trail boom of like 2017, 2018, etc. So like they're coming out like in a completely different world, and like they're going at it with a very like smart mindset, and like like they did the record release and it was fucking awesome. Like it was cool to have like all these young kids who like didn't get to experience trail finally experience trail, and like it's awesome. Like TD is always like giving us advice, and is always like like always like tried to like steer us in like the smart direction, and like, and he even like asked us for advice too, like oh, like I'm thinking about doing this, should we do this, like, and it's like a very like genuine connection between like the two eras of like Syracuse, because like a lot I feel as though like a lot of people are separate from their like old heads, for lack of a better term. And it's kind of like like like, oh, you guys do your thing, we'll do our thing. But like it's all like Trail and Tom Dom and shit like has always like tried to like be involved, even though he doesn't live in Syracuse anymore. But like it's always like cool to like hear how our like he's always interested in like our creative process and stuff, and like he's always like asking questions and always like trying to figure out like what makes us like tick in terms of like being a band, you know what I mean? So yeah, he's always been awesome. And like he let us stay with him in like I was like, oh shit, like we're playing Richmond, like let's link up. He's like, yo, come stay at the house. Like we didn't even ask him. He's just like, yo, come stay at our place. And we get there, and like, let's just say like Gold Set's doing really well, because we were chilling like fucking kings at the Tom Dom estate. But yeah, no, he's always been really awesome, and like super like hospitable, and like just always been like he's the man. And that's like why we all like ride for Trail, because like through and through, like they understand it. They're hardcore dudes. They get it. They're like they're smart with how they do shit. And like maybe they're not like the flavor of the month right now, like in this current landscape of hardcore, but like to kind of see them like operate outside of that and just still be themselves, because like they could easily like come back and write a record to sound like whatever is big, like whatever big hardcore band happens at the time. But it's like, no, this is just a Trail record through and through, aesthetically, visually, lyrically. Like it's still them. They're not going to change, like, unless it's genuine. Like it's just like an authenticity that I feel is like lacking in like hardcore sometimes because everyone's trying to do a copy of an era or a copy of a vibe. And, you know, me personally, like Trail's like aesthetic choices, like I don't wear Nike, I wear Adidas. You know what I mean? I'm not like the aesthetic choices like that Tom Dom has is like kind of more relevant to like who he is. Like he's a very like athletic, motivated guy. So obviously everything like is very much entwined with like that. Like that's why they're always doing like sportswear shit and like I mean very youth crew in its own way, which like I love that shit. But like me personally, like I have my own taste and stuff. But like when it comes to like authenticity, like I prefer a band be their authentic self over something that like checks all the boxes of the things I like. You know what I mean? Like you could be a band that's like grimy and fucking fast and dark and spooky and evil, and I can fucking see through that shit as like you're just trying to be something that you're not. Like you're checking all the boxes, but I don't fuck with it because it's you were wearing a different costume yesterday. You know what I mean? But Trail has always been Trail. You look at those guys back in the day, they're the same people they are now. You know what I mean? Like they're all individuals. Like they all are like have like the same mindset. They all like for better for worse understand like the bigger picture with whatever Trail is doing. And that's why like they had their success in like the first comeback in like 2017, 2018. And you know, that's what like All For All does. Like we are ourselves. You know what I mean? Like we all understand like what All For All is doing. And that's why I feel like for me personally, I feel like that's why people gravitate towards it because, you know, we're just doing what we enjoy and like we're not trying to play for the audience, I guess. Like you have to play for the audience, obviously, to like vibe off people's energy, but like, you know, even Deal With God, like I'm not trying to do something that like I don't feel is, you know, you have to like put yourself out there and like not be afraid to get clowned on to like make art that's like worthwhile. You have to be a little bit vulnerable and you have to like make something that is like a true representation of yourself, and like not everyone's going to fuck with it, and that is what makes it like stand the test of time, in my personal opinion. I could be fucking wrong because who knows? I'm not making money off this shit. But yeah.
One last thing on Trail. Leading up to this newest record, right? They had put out like this link, and like I said, I love Tom. I love Trail of Lies, so I just wanted to support any way I can. So click the link, you know, put in my information, my address, whatever, and I'm, you know, next screen I'm thinking I'm gonna put in my credit card or whatever, but then it's just like complete, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, why do they want my address and all that? And then, you know, a couple weeks later, I get like a Trail of Lies, you know, care package, and I'm like, how? This is insane, because like I know I'm not the only one that fills out that, you know, form, so they must have sent out like so many care packages. I'm like, that is so crazy, because I've never heard of a band doing that, because that, and you know, that is not cheap.
No, not
crazy.
But the thing is like they, like I was talking with Tom Dom, he's just like, it's just genius. Like he's like a mastermind with like marketing and whatnot, which is why he has like does the stuff he does. That's why like Gold Set is like as, you know, like successful as it is. Like he definitely like that is his creative like tick. You know what I mean? Is like figuring out like okay, what is something different, and like circumventing expectation that like is gonna be special and gonna be, because like there you could put out a demo and then you do the promo and then you do the tour and then you do this and then you do that, and then it's just like the same cycle. And he's like, nah, I want to do something that like I, in the background you can see I have like the box, and like I think stuff like that is like in it of itself like an art piece. in the sense that they put this like care into it. And like it's cool because it comes with a book talking about the history of trail, and like it's cool seeing like photos of like my friends and stuff, and like hearing about how they feel about like Syracuse and shit like that, and like seeing like general progression. Like it is definitely like TLC that like doesn't, that I feel like a lot of bands like, you know, look past, where it's like you have to put in that effort if people are going to like people like to, you know, people like to see that care put in their art. And I think when it comes to like anything, whether you're doing like records or tapes or even shirts, like phoning something in just to do something is like I know like they get critiques of like being like a merch band or whatever, but it's like they're not doing merch just to fucking like make a buck off you. Like they genuinely like do this because in and of itself is art. You know what I mean? Like they don't have to do all this crazy shit, like make free scratch off cards that have a download code for a song, or like give you like, honestly, like them giving like free shirts is like kind of like insane, but like it's smart. You know what I mean? Because that's just like, you take a look at any, like you go to like a convention, or you go to like a fucking like I don't know, like an event where there's like a sponsor or whatever, and they're always giving away free shit. And like, it's just marketing, man. Like that's just classic marketing and advertising. And like, obviously, like, you know, some people could fucking debate like, oh, that's just fucking like this, that, and the other thing in hardcore, and that doesn't belong. I'm like, they're doing it themselves. Like there's no label behind this. Like they're doing it themselves. Like they so happen to have the opportunity to do it because like in their other, like, you know, they're able to like fund this shit, but like they don't have to do this if they don't want to do this. You know what I mean? They want to do this because like that's their creative process, which I think that's awesome. Like we all want to like do something like for the sake of art. You know what I mean? So personally, I think that like chance taking is what makes something so much more interesting. Because like straight up, like that is a risk. Is like you're spending all this money. Are you sure you're gonna sell everything? Are you sure you're gonna make like your money back, like with this record or whatever? So like honestly, like that's awesome. Like too many people play it safe, I feel like, in hardcore. And I like when people circumvent expectations. It's what makes hardcore interesting. It's what makes any form of music interesting, is like doing something that like people are like, why are you doing that? That's fucking crazy. Like, yeah, of course it's crazy. That's what makes it cool. You know what I mean? Like this whole like even on the other end of the spectrum, like Fugazi being like, we're not making any merch. Our shows are not like, we will only play shows that are like $5. You know what I mean? Like that's cool. That's also cool. Like, I don't know, like it's more than just like fucking like playing riffs and shit. It's like kind of like the act of like doing shit. You know what I mean? And like you kind of see it on like smaller scale shit when like, you know, like bands like who are like on a smaller level, like just spray paint a fucking logo on their shirt and just give it to their friends to like pop off at like a fest or whatever. Like, you know, if you have the opportunity to do something, just do it, and don't overthink it. If you feel like that's like how you want to do your creativity, that's what you should do. You know what I mean? Because like we're not guaranteed that like, you know, like these opportunities, these bands are gonna last forever. So like make the most of it. Like that's what makes hardcore.
Yeah. And I like it. Really lasting on Trail of Lies. I feel like they started like, like years ago, they started that trend with like the fanny packs and like the crossbody bags.
Right.
Because I remember I was like, went to Disneyland and hanging out with some friends, and like they had like this crazy Trail of Lies like fanny pack. It was like multicolored. I was like, what is that? And they're like, oh, it's my friend's band. I'm like, that looks crazy. And then like they did like, the black and baby blue one. And I even have like these like crazy bags that like Tom gave me. Like, I don't even think they ever came out. But then it's just like, I feel like every band started doing that, which is fine. Like every record label. And it's just like, anytime I see like a fanny pack or like a crossbody bag, I think like, damn, that's like Trail of Lies right there.
Yeah. I mean, they were the ones who kind of did it first, because like I said, TD is like very much like in tune with like sportswear and fashion and whatnot, like more on like the production side, like hanging out with him, like when we played Richmond, like he showed us like his setup, because has like the Damiano clothes, like leisure, like the leisure wear line thing, like sweatsuits and whatnot, and like him showing us like his sewing machine and like the samples he had, and like he really like cares about this shit. And like a lot of people, like, this is like outside of hardcore, and I think like a lot of people don't understand that, like, my fiance, she went to FIT, she understands this world a lot, and like she's also like a business owner and whatnot, and was like a buyer for the store before she started working there, etc., before she inherited it. But like she like showed me like there's so much more, like so many people want to like start businesses and brands and whatever, and like I remember like when I was younger, there's all these fucking kids, they're like, oh, I want to do streetwear, bro, and it's just like a fucking graphic tee of like some anime rip, or like that's cool and all, but like when it comes to actual like fashion, like there's so much like thought and effort put into it. Like I remember when TD was doing like just before he did Damiano, he did like, it's called like Cousins, and it was just a test run of like the hoodies and shit. And like, he like, I didn't buy from the website. I like messaged him. He's like, him and like my friend Colin and whatnot. He was like, okay, like, how do you like your hoodies? Because this was like a test. He wanted to like see what people fucked with. You know what I mean? So like everything he did was like a little bit different, and like kind of seeing that effort, like just shows that like this isn't stuff that's just phoned in. Like none of this is being pulled out of someone's ass. Like there's actual work and effort into this shit. Like, it takes like a very, like anyone can like make a shirt design, or like anyone can fucking like start a band, just print a bunch of shirts and be like, oh, whatever, who fucking cares? Like, that's fine. But like, people got to give credit to like the actual like attention to detail that goes into like like I said, the bigger picture of things. Like anyone can just start a band and put out music. That's cool. That's awesome. But like, if you want to like, I don't know, every aspect of your band has to be like, to maintain interest has to be in art project of itself. And like, that's like kind of like how Deal with God like operates. Like, I'm not gonna just put a fucking like skeleton on a shirt, put the logo on, and be like, cool, put it on the table. Like, I don't want to like half-ass anything. Like, even though sometimes I'll be like, shit, I need to like re-up on merch and I don't want to do the same thing, I have something like locked and loaded, but like I'm not gonna put out something that's like just like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Because like I've done that before, and then I'm like, this feels whack. Like, I don't care about this. Like, this sucks. Now I have to get rid of this shit that I didn't sell because obviously it was just like lazy. You know what I mean? So I think people need to understand, like, before someone's like, oh, it's a fucking merch band. Oh, this is fucking this, that, and the other thing. Like, there's attention to detail that's like important, because like, how are you going to fund your band? You have to fucking do this shit, unfortunately. Like, like I digress. But yeah.
All right. Well, shout out Travel Eyes. Happy they're back. Wish them luck in their European tour in 2025.
Which Lucas is going to be filling in for him on that. So it's cool that like another example of like how they've supported us is like Colin Flynn has filled in for him. Lucas has filled in for him before. Like, you know, they still like they would much rather bring in the younger generation, just kind of like how Deal with God did. Like Nate, who plays in Ashara, started playing in bands because we were like, hey, do you want to, like, he was like fucking 16 or like, yo, do you want to fill in for us? Let's go play New Jersey. And we took him to New Jersey and he like killed it. You know what I mean? Like that's just being a good old head, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. You know, a band you mentioned earlier, Cut Down, you know, they came to California and their drummer was getting married, so he had to deal, like, he was doing like wedding stuff. So they brought this younger kid who played drums for another band that doesn't exist anymore. But just meeting this younger kid, I was like, what the hell? Who is this guy? I was like, this isn't your drummer. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I'm so and so. And he was like just this young kid who was just so happy just to be there. And I'm like, this is so awesome that they, you know, picked him of all people and just gave him this awesome experience. And it was funny too, because like he messed up during the set live and he just was so down on himself. And everybody was like, dude, it's not a fucking big deal. It's just a hardcore show. It's fine. Like you did a good job. You just messed up once. Not a big deal. But it was just
messed up big time yesterday. Like we covered Wide Awake and at the intro to Last Straw, and like so we had our friend Jenks dress up as Santa because it was obviously a holiday thing, like it was a food drive show, and he read off the naughty list and it was just all of us. But like as I was adjusting my drums, like I had everything set up because One Track Mind used our shit before, and I'm like just about to start adjusting, and he walks up and he like starts his whole spiel. I'm like, fuck, like my cymbal is like not high enough, like it's like really like I'm like not even ready yet, and it's already starting. I'm like, fuck, here we go. Like I literally blanked on the set list and I was like, what are we playing? What are we playing? And I knew we had to do the cover, and like I just like was not on my A game, and I just like kept fucking up, and it was just like, fuck, this sucks. But luckily no one gave a shit. But yeah. But then you remember like, oh, it's hardcore. I'm literally playing a teen center, and there's a bunch of like young kids that don't give a shit and they're just happy to be there. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like happens. Obviously, as a musician, you want to play good. Like David will mess up once in a blue moon at a Deal with God show and fucking beat himself up over it for like the whole day. I'm like, bro, dude, it's fine. Like no one cares. People moshed. That's all that matters. And he's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, dude, it's hardcore. Who cares? Like, but I get it. As a drummer, like you or not even just as a drummer, as a musician, you don't want to like, it's more of the people who are like blatantly don't practice, don't give a shit, like, it's hardcore, who cares? I'm like, care a little bit. Care a little bit. But
practice.
Like, practice. But if you're just like, if you're doing the motions and like you do like what you need to do and you accidentally mess up, that's fine. So like, but it's funny, like, you know, when you're a young kid, like I imagine that kid is probably like, oh fuck, like, because he's like, this is like, he's on the West Coast, like he probably never done this before. So I get it, you know, but yeah, that's like kind of the beauty of hardcore, is that there is like that little bit of leeway where you could like, as long as you're having fun. I'd rather like people have a smile on their face like while they're playing and like enjoying it than like, I don't know, like I've seen like some of the like arguably like the most out of tune terrible bands and they're having a blast, and I've seen bands that are like really fucking up and on stage they're like not stoked, and it ruins it because it's just like, bro, just have fun. Like just have fun. It's not that hard. Like you're not Metallica. Fuck off. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah.
And you mentioned that show yesterday. I was like reading the flyer. Is it pronounced Camillus? Carol for the okay. For the food bank of CNY. Can you talk about what the show is for and the food bank?
Yeah. So Lucas booked the show, and obviously, like, he wanted to do a winter coat drive, and he was toying around with ideas, and he was like, I'm just gonna do like a food bank show, because like, I don't know, like Syracuse has one of the biggest like childhood poverty rates in like New York. It's the city is very bleak when it comes to like obviously like Syracuse has always been like a very blue collar city. So it's like, it's shocking to like read these headlines of like how bad like childhood poverty and hunger are in like arguably like a place that like has like SU and like all this stuff that reels in money, but as it happens, like places like SU just kind of like many for-profit universities, it does not trickle down into the city at all. And they're trying to get like Micron up here and shit, and they're trying to like have like more jobs, but unfortunately, like Syracuse is such a small city that like they're the biggest employer is Destiny USA, the mall, like the big giant mall that we have that is suffering because stores keep closing. And it's like, and especially in this economy, it's terrible. Like, we are heading towards a pretty bad recession if we aren't already in one. And it's the thing about hardcore is like, I grew up like the idea of a benefit show is like kind of like the norm, you know what I mean? Like that's like what hardcore should be, is giving back. And I feel like, it's cool when you see stuff like, For the Children, or like, as recent, like all the Palestinian benefits and whatnot. It's cool that like people are starting to realize like, okay, like this means something. We have to like give back to like the community, like, and like, Syracuse, like is such a small scene and such a community, like such like the city in and of itself is small, and the scene is pretty like very tight knit, because there's like, it's not like this big scene where like not everybody, like everyone knows each other in Syracuse, for better or for worse, you know what I mean? So it's cool to see like everyone get together. Like Lucas posted like all the food that was donated made up to like 200 meals for people. And especially in up here, it's like the holidays are coming, and it's like I said, the economy's shit right now, so it's like nice to see that like we can get together as like a community and actually like make a difference in the city that like we all live in. Because like I said, like Syracuse hardcore has no like financial backing, you know what I mean? It is a like for the most part the most like DIY scene. Like, we don't have like, our big shows are still DIY. Like, I think the closest thing to like something that we have done that has been like a little more on like the corpo side was the Gorilla Biscuit show, but that's only because of what it was like in the venue. And like we worked, like Lucas worked with like After Dark and Song and Dance, which is like the big like venue there. But for the most part, everything is like very bare bones DIY. We don't have sponsors. We don't have we literally have all of our shows in like event centers and like teen centers and shit like that. Like, or the skate park, you know what I mean? So it's like a lot of the kids like in Syracuse are kids from Syracuse. Like, it's not, we don't have like we just have like scrappy like street kids and shit come to shows, or like skater kids, or in like the Town Shop, which is like in Camillus, which is like the teen center that Lucas grew up going to and whatnot. Like, that's how we started booking shows there. And like, what's cool is like a lot of the kids that go there see shows, and that's how we get all the kids that are like involved in Syracuse hardcore now, we're all town shop kids when we started doing shit. So they were like, oh, we see this like all of the kids in like Fatal Consequences and shit like that, like we're all town shop kids. And then they saw hardcore and they're like, this is cool. And now they're starting bands and like actually being active, and it's, you know, the cycle continues. So the beauty of Syracuse is that it is 100% community based and community driven, and like there's no room for like any like bullshit, because like that's all we have is like our like each other. Not to sound corny, but like, you know, it doesn't exist without us, and the least we can do as a community is like try our best to make the city a better place, because like the government's not going to do it, and sure as hell like the university or any of like the big businesses like Carrier or whatever aren't going to do shit. So that's like, you know, that's kind of to me and to Lucas, like that's what hardcore is about, and like hopefully we can do more benefits like that in the future. Like the show before that we did, it was like All for All, Yield to None, Street Hassle, and that was Palestinian benefit for I forgot the specific organization off the top of my head, but it was like more for like Palestinian refugees and whatnot. But yeah,
I think that's a beautiful thing, right? To want to just help out your local community, and the fact that you guys were able to come together and be able to provide all those meals for people in need. Because, you know, sometimes people may not realize how much struggle is out there. So I think it's really awesome that you guys are actually just out there, you're concerned about your community and actually putting in work to help change that and to help people out.
Mm-hmm. And I think like when we when all the stuff that was happening in like Gaza, like initially, I remember like I can't remember which show specifically. It might have been like the show in November, the big, not this recent, like last November. Like I was like, okay, all the merch money I'm just gonna donate to like Palestinian relief shit, because it was like, you know, that's to me what like all the bands that I looked up to. Like you look at like what like in DC back in like the 80s, like a lot of those shows were like benefit shows for like whatever cause was like happening at the time, or you know, something either local to DC or something global. I think like that is something that like is like for the most part, like I think hardcore needs to do better is like to think about the impact that like a like subversive DIY culture has, where like, you know, like I said, like corporations aren't gonna fucking save us. Like the government's not gonna fucking save us. And like, you know, it is like a very grassroots thing. And like you take a look at like churches and whatnot, and like how like community based they are, and how like they are usually the leading centers for things such as like homeless shelters or soup kitchens or like, you know, clothing drives or food drives. Like there needs to be more like environments where like people are giving and not taking, and like if you have a community, like you should use that as an opportunity to make some difference, whether it's smaller, like a more grand difference. But I think like everybody, including myself, like I think that we all collectively need to like put more focus in these things, especially in the subculture, because the entire point of subculture is to like go against a lot of the things that frustrate us. And if we are just using, you know, hardcore or punk as like an escape and nothing more, and we're not learning anything, we're not like using this energy to actually make like a difference, then it's no different than just sitting on your couch and watching TV. You know what I mean? It's very hedonistic. It's very like pointless. And to me, like that, the whole point of hardcore is like to find not only find escape from like the stress of it and to find an outlet to like express your frustration, but also to like find a solution to like these issues that seem very overarching and like cosmically complex, when truthfully it's only feels that way because like we don't feel like we can make that change, when really the only way the change can be made is if people actually do something. And I'm on like a long tangent, but like I genuinely feel like with hardcore, like I said, people take it as like a hedonistic thing. You know what I mean? Like, you see like all these like, I don't know, like on the internet, all these fucking videos of like mosh compilations and fucking, you know, like all like heavy riffs. Like it's fucking like monotonous and like counterproductive, and it's just like in and of itself is its own fucking brain rot. And then everyone gets like into these discussions about gatekeeping and fucking this and like the culture and crowd killing, blah, blah, blah. And all that stuff is just like not a part of my vocabulary, because I'm like, I don't care about like all this pointless bullshit. Like, yeah, obviously, like I think like, you know, there's things that like very like some random interpersonal communication errors within the scene is, you know, could be addressed a little bit better, but at the end of the day, it's just like, I don't know, man, people are fucking dying, bro. Like, I don't give a flying fuck about, like, I don't know, that video of that dude in the fucking blue hat, like, punching kids at a show or whatever. I'm like, during a band that's, like, talking about, like, Palestine and shit, like, bro, we missed the mark here somewhere. Like, we will. I'm somewhere along the lines, like, wires got crossed, like, I don't know, like this isn't fucking like this is more than just like, I don't know, crazy music to like go crazy to, like, I don't know. I guess it's like, as someone who books shows, like this is more in my head than like the average show attendee, but I don't know. I see the potential in like this, you know, subculture to like do more, even like not even do more within the subculture rather than just like, you know, like aside from like greater change. But I'm all in my rant there. But like, I think everyone can kind of like understand like what I'm trying to get at with that.
For sure. Good rant. Okay.
I like doing that, as you can tell. No, I like talking. But
it's awesome. But I want to bring it back to Deal with God. Excuse me. I just want to ask you about the third track, I, the Inmost Fight. Can you just talk about what that song is about? Because I just love the title.
Oh, yeah. So I love obviously borrowing things from other things. The whole song. Ooh, there's a fucking nasty ass stink bug right next to me. Hold on a sec.
No problem. This is a first.
All right.
And we're back.
I didn't kill him. I just flicked him. He's like away. I just was like, I don't want to kill him on air. That's cruel. This is not a fucking snuff film. But yeah, no, that song. Well, a lot of the lyrics of that EP were written, I don't know, like during the main part of like the main years of Deal with Gods, like when we started as a band, like when you're starting a band in your like pushing your mid 20s rather than being in a band when you're like 19 or 18 or 20 or whatever. You know, you look at the world slightly different, and it's a transitional period in your life where like you're slowly becoming an adult, and you know, you're starting to like compartmentalize your friendships. You're starting to compartmentalize like your lifestyle choices, and you gotta, you know, figure out how to move forward in life. And there can be stress there as like someone who, you know, dropped out of school and like, you know, was delivery driver, warehouse worker, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you know, you kind of like battle with this, like, you battle with this kind of like inner demon of like, oh, like, who the fuck am I? Like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm obviously you're playing in bands or whatever, but like, what are you doing in your life? And it's, you know, the term inmost fight is like the battle within yourself of like, you know, am I going to persevere through like this like weird time when like, you know, people in your life are dying, and, you know, friends are coming in and out, and you're, you know, I'd like to think that like I'm on a good path, and, you know, I'm able to like kind of like push past like a lot of the frivolous bullshit in my life. And sometimes you can get roped into, you know, some like interpersonal drama or some, you know, just like bullshit. And, you know, basically the whole EP is like more like, aside from like the songs about the scene or whatever, like what's going on in like my own like community, like the more personal songs are very much like about kind of like growing up, but like not growing up from child to adult, but from adult to the next stage of adulthood. And like that weird like middle part of your like mid 20s, when, especially after the pandemic, when like your early 20s were pretty much robbed from you, and like you weren't able to do certain things, like the natural trajectory, which is like a non-existent thing in and of itself. Like it's you think that like, you know, your path is going to be one way because it was everyone else's, and you find out that no one else had the same path. And, you know, yeah, that's pretty much what that song's about. And like, also just feeling frustrated at like a lot of like, I mean, like like the term inmost fight was actually like a play on the inmost light, which was a Current 93 reference. And hang on, they're all talking outside. All right. Sorry. And I think when it comes to like the lyrics, like, if only I could take you all at once, I would take you forever and ever. It's like those kind of like inner demons, like I will. Hey guys, can you quiet down? My fiance, our upstairs neighbors are downstairs hanging out, so
it's all good. It's all good.
You can cut that part out unless it's for comedic effect. I don't know, but yeah, that song, yeah, that's really what that song's about. It's just like kind of fighting inner demons, especially like, I don't know. Obviously, like there's more to it, but like that's all like more personal and shit like that, like mental health shit. But
yeah. No, I get it, because, you know, obviously like everybody goes through their own shit, and for me, I just have like I recently went to Korea, and it was like life changing. So now it's just like that's like my goal, right? Is to get back, which I'm going back October. So it's like these days, just like whenever anything gets hard, it's just like, you know what? I got Korea in October, so this ain't that bad. And like, I'm always like dealing with shit, but it's just like I feel like the fact that I just have like this one goal that like I'm just so determined to get to is just it just makes my life a lot easier.
Yeah, and like the thing about it is like when I write, it's kind of hard because like I know for a fact that like I did not have a hard upbringing, like in terms of like in comparison to other people. Obviously, everyone has their own issues and everyone has their own demons that they deal with. Everyone has their own traumas. Everyone has their own like, you know, mental health issues. Like I grew up in the suburbs. Like I'm not trying to be like just like, oh, I grew up in the fucking scrap, like blah blah blah. Like, but like my problems were always more like mental and self-esteem related and you know, a lot more like personal. And you know, sometimes you have like a little bit of imposter syndrome being the front man of a hardcore band where it's just like, who the fuck gives a shit about my problems? You know what I mean? Like, but then again, it's like it's all self-expression, and there's so many things that you can write about. As long as things are authentic, I think that's all that matters. Because there's a lot of people who try to like create problems for themselves so they can like, you know, it's like a fucking victim mentality. Like I'm not like a victim. Like I try to write in a way that like I don't ever want people to think that like Deal With God is like a negative band. Obviously like there's like a lot of like dark imagery and like, you know, a lot of the references I make come from like a lot of the references, especially in the we're going to be working on LP, and what I've been writing more like pertains to like different frustrations that I have not been able to like express on any other, you know, any other like band or record or demo I've ever worked on. And, you know, there's always new things coming up in life that, you know, as an adult, when you write lyrics, like how do you express your feelings in a mature way and not a juvenile way? Because like my other band, The Thrill, like the demo, I was just like talking shit and being a goofball. You know what I mean? Like I was like talking about how much I hated my fucking retail job and shit like that. Like, and you know, I you know try to be like adult and mature when it comes to like my lyric writing, because like, you know, as much of a goofball as I am in my personal life, I am a very like at heart serious person, and someone who like the issues I care about, I deeply care about. The things that I think are important in my life are not things to be taken lightly. And you know, mostly that EP, like The Bitter Die Hard, specifically the song Bitter Die Hard is very much in relation to like everything that happened in like 2022 and whatnot, like to 2023, like having people in my life pass away, and just, you know, dealing with that, like, you know, not just me, but also like in my fiance's life and in my friend's life. Like it's, you know, that's the thing about growing up is like, there are people that are, that will just go at a like moment's notice. Like, the term bitter die hard, when I was in high school, my, there was a class, which is like, it's a very private school thing. Like no other school would have a class like this, but it was, it's called Death and Dying. And it was literally it was a class about, the process of death. And what we would do is like go volunteer at like hospice care. And it's kind of crazy. Like I'm very happy that like I was able to experience something like this because like obviously it's like they don't have that at like public school. It's a very
Yeah.
bizarre thing. Like kind of thinking about it now, it's just like holy shit, that was like a class I took in my senior year. And ironically, around that time is when like my grandpa was passing away, and there was like a guest speaker or someone who came in. It was like a small class because it was an elective, but it was like it was kind of crazy elective to have.
Yeah.
But shout out to Mr. Demanda, who actually just recently followed each other on Instagram after all these years. My teacher from that class, really nice guy. There's I guess like someone who came and talked with us, and like one term that he said that really like really stuck out to me was like the bitter die hard. And what he was trying to talk about is like, there's always talk about like what you put into the world is what you get back. So if you are like a terrible person, then like you're gonna die. You're gonna die like that. Like, and like the lyrics I have in that song is just about that. It's just like, what is the legacy you're gonna leave behind? And I think about like, the specific people that passed away around that time, like one of them being Lorraine, who was my fiance's boss, but she was like a mother figure to her, and like my fiance was like a daughter to her, you know what I mean? Which ended up like she worked at that job for 10 years and ended up inheriting it with the other boss, like the other manager. And yeah, crazy life shit. But in like kind of like seeing the impact she made on a lot of people's lives, being a very like caring, like she was like, I don't know if you ever seen The Devil Wears Prada. She was kind of like the boss lady in that movie, kind of like she was a little like very like kind of crazy, but she also had like at the end of the day a big heart and like really cared, and she loved in her own like odd way, and played a very, very vital role in a lot of people's lives, and specifically me and my fiance's life. And seeing that after she died, of like how genuine, real of a person she was, and that was kind of like, I wrote that song around that time. And then also like my friend Hector, who was he ran Ales and Ills merch. He did merch for like Integrity and shit, and like every single time like I'd see him, it was like he was like the homie, and we were like, we would like talk a lot like on Instagram and shit, because obviously he lived out in California, but we were always like gonna plan on like linking up, me, him, and my friend David, going to like Mexico to like the metal flea market and shit like that. He was like, yo, when are we gonna do that? Like every time I saw him, and he unfortunately passed away. And I only knew him for like a short period of time, but we Deal With God, Play With Integrity, and like since then, like we always kept in touch, and every single time I would see him, like we would like talk for hours and like kick it and shit. And it was like one of those things where it was like, and it was one of those things where it's just like after you like pass, like seeing like so many people just like be like, fuck, like a wonderful soul. He lived a life where like he was kind to everyone. He was like generous to everyone. And like, it pays off, because like you leave a legacy where like people remember you in a positive light. And, and that's what's important. Like, and, in between those, my uncle passed away, and, he was, addicted to drugs, and, unfortunately passed away through overdose and shit. And like, it was like really troubling to like, see him like in and out of rehab and shit, miss Thanksgivings and whatnot. And like, my mom having to kind of like especially after his death, like deal with like his house and like you know, the people in his life that were like bringing him down. But he was also like, you know, he was like the life of the party, you know what I mean? Like, as much of a pain in the ass he was to like family and shit like that, he was always like a good heart and a loving person. Like, you know, unfortunately, like life dealt him, you know, some very, you know, heavy cards. And, you know, he, you know, had kind of like a second life outside of what people knew him, because he was very involved in his church and very like, you know, very welcomed in this community. And like, you know, a little bit before he passed away, my mom went to his church with him and saw all these people like just see him for who he was, and not just, you know, this guy who was always in and out of rehab and always like, you know, impulsive and always saying crazy stuff and like always, you know, acting erratic, and just like a real like figurehead in his community, and accepted by people that like unconditionally. And, you know, like the legacy he left is like all those people know him as this caring person who like really like loved like his community, you know what I mean? And like all that happening around like that EP like coming out, like it, you know, that shaped like kind of like the effort put into it. It was just like that specific song and the title, and like, you know, the whole energy I had around the band. It was just like, it's like, what is the legacy you're going to leave behind? Like how, like the last line, how you'll be remembered moments out of the day you die. Like, you know, if you're going to be a spiteful person, you're going to like, and on top of there's just so many people that like I've experienced in my life that are just like very like spiteful people. And you know, there's the people who like act as if like the world's fucking against them, and they make all these awful decisions and turn people away and like treat people like shit out of their own insecurity. And it's just like, you know, it's a miserable life when you're miserable. You know what I mean? It's a terrible life to live when like you are this spiteful, vengeful, like individual. And, you know, I feel as though like in hardcore, especially as a very like angry medium, there is no shortage of people who like have this vendetta against the world in a way that's like non-constructive, and there's a lot of misplaced hatred, and you see it with how people behave, you know, at shows where you have people just like using everyone else as their fucking punching bag, or like screwing people over, or like, you know, just like acting as if like, you know what, like I hate the world and the world hates me, therefore I'm just going to use I'm going to just use this medium as my own playground for my own self-hatred. And, you know, it permeates through the culture. And it's to me personally, like, you know, unfortunately, like, you know, it happens when you're in this like counterculture, but, you know, so viewing it optic wise from the outside, I think like a lot of people can take that into consideration and be like, oh shit, like, you know, it's like golden rule shit. Just treat people the way you want to be treated. And if you're a good person, people are going to remember you for being a good person, not this fucking piece of shit. You know what I mean? Because we're all here for the same reason. You know, we're all on this earth figuring their shit out. Like there's no point in, you know, having these like grudges against each other over something fucking stupid. Like, I don't know, like someone saying something like out of pocket to you or whatever. Like you can easily fucking brush that shit off. Someone making a joke at your expense, instead of just being like, hey man, that was kind of fucked up. Like fucking fighting someone over that. I don't know. Like I just see so much shit happen. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like life's too short. And like, I don't know, that's that whole time when making the EP and like experiencing all those things like at a very short amount of time. Like it's not like it was just like back to back to back to back. Like literally that, like Lorraine passes away. A couple months later, my uncle passes away. Literally not even like 2 or 3 months later, like Hector passed away, or maybe it's the other way around. I can't remember, but like it was hard. It was like it was kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Especially like early in life, like it's like a wake up call. You're like, oh shit, this shit is fragile. But yeah, long rant. Yet again, another long rant. But
No,
I
no.
never get to talk about like lyrics and shit because like, you know, when you're on tour and shit, people want to hear about that. But like, I want to talk about music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well,
get me talking about music. I'm going to start talking about the music. I'm going to write a fucking paragraph. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm happy you're still here, you know, because obviously going through something like that isn't easy. So, you know, glad you're here. It seemed like you're doing okay. Obviously loss, you know, is never fun. So, you know, hopefully, you can, continue and, you know, obviously honor them, but, never forget that's one thing I always think. Cause I got in my life, I've only ever lost my grandma, and this was like, you know, probably right after high school, and you know, was never really prepared for anything like that. But it was just a really strange time. But yeah, going through that kind of stuff is never fun.
Yeah, no, it's never easy. Like I have like one grandparent left. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, you got to make the most of it. You like you realize like, oh shit, like, you know, and I had a friend, you know, pass away from heroin overdose when, you know, like a year or two after I graduated high school. Like he was older, like, but he was like someone I knew from like shows and stuff like that. And like we would go to shows together every now and then, like always hang out and chat at shows. Like he was the man. And you know, my friend Anthony Frosino, he unfortunately like overdosed, and that was like the first time I experienced like non-familial death. And like, you know, it's never expected. Like you wake up one day and you're like, holy fuck, like it hits you randomly. Like, you wake up and you see like people like posting RIP to someone, you know, and you're like, what the fuck? It's, you know, life is a fragile thing. And I think if people, you know, especially like in our small subset of like of hardcore or whatever, like take that into consideration. And I feel like people would be like, you know what, like a lot of the shit that we're beefing over, a lot of it's not worth it. Like, I don't know, but I think the world will be a better place if we realize how fragile life can be and have that empathy for each other, even if someone is like honestly like being shitty, because like people hurt people. That's like a very age old thing, you know what I mean? But
yeah. All right, last thing about Deal with God, I'm just very curious about the album art, because if I'm being honest, when I look at it, I'm like, wow, this looks like it could be a Magic the Gathering card.
Yo, that's awesome. Because like me and my friend Payne, who lives upstairs, we just got back into Magic the Gathering like mad hard, and my fiance is also getting into it. So that's actually very ironic you say that. But yeah, no, my fiance painted that.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it was funny because like I was like looking for an art because I wanted like an oil painting to be all art. And I didn't, you know, everyone always like takes like a Bosch painting or whatever and just reuses it for album art. Like obviously Integrity did that. They also did like Francis Bacon and shit like that. But like so many bands have taken like an actual like famous like oil painting and just like slap their logo on it. And I was like, I want something original that's gonna like invoke like the aesthetic of the band that like I want to portray. And I kept trying to find like artists and like, you know, every single like person like didn't like. I wanted something that was very much like you couldn't tell and obviously it's hard when like those paintings took like forever, like so like that's a craft you have to master, you know what I mean? And it was funny, like I was like searching for people to do it, and like no like I was like, this person isn't like, I would see an Instagram page and I'll be like, yeah, this is cool, but like I feel like it's a little like it's not what I want. And then I was like expressing it to like my fiance, and she was like, why don't you just ask me? I went to art school, like I know how to do it. I've never seen an oil painting by her. Unfortunately, all of her art from college was thrown out
Wow.
by her roommate's mom because she left it in her basement like while she was back home.
Oh no.
So unfortunately, all of it's been is destroyed. So there's literally no evidence of her doing stuff. And I know she's a good like drawer or whatever. I mean, I was just like, can you? I've never seen you paint. And like she honestly got pissed at me. So honestly, the album art was made out of spite. She's like, I'm gonna fucking prove it to you. Fuck you. Like, worst you could do is not use it. And I was like, all right, we'll see. And I was like, honestly, shitty on my part. I shouldn't have doubted her because it came out phenomenal. But I was like, listen, if you fucking do the album art and we use the album art, you have to like keep doing this. Like I was like, you gotta like keep doing art. And she still does it. She doesn't have anything like finished, but she's definitely like always working on something. It's hard when like she's like running a business and like, you know, dealing with life stuff and shit like that. So it's like, you know, like she doesn't really have too much time to like actually like lock in, especially since we're always doing like life shit. Like we're always cleaning the fucking house. I digress. So she like, I basically was kind of like made on a dare almost because she was just like, okay, you doubt me. Fuck you. I'm going to do it. And I was like, all right. And then it honestly was like the best decision ever because it was like exactly what I wanted. And exactly like I kind of let her like, I was like, all I did was like, here are the types of colors I want. Like I sent her like zoomed in screenshots of like Caravaggio paintings and like Bosch paintings and whatever. She loves like Caravaggio and shit. Like she tries to like mimic his style of painting, like all these old Renaissance painters and whatnot. And she's like always watching videos on like trying it and like buying oil painting and like really learning how to do it. Cause like something about her is like, if she like learns something, she's going to fucking learn it. She's not going to learn like a half-ass version of it. And she already like has experience with like painting and stuff. Just unfortunately no body of work cause she used to do like wood burning and like she used to make jewelry at like bone jewelry and shit like that. Like, real gothy shit, of course. But, yeah, no, she did a phenomenal job. And like, I hope people, you know, ask her to do like once she starts like actually like putting out more work, like people actually like go to her. But you know, it's hard to do art when you're like older. Like she's 31, so like, you know, and she's like got a lot of life stuff, so it's like hard for her to actually like lock in, unfortunately. But like when she does, it's like it pays off because like she puts a lot of like care in. She's like, I'm not gonna like give you something. Like she like painted 3 different things, and like when she was like, nah, this is not working, she like stopped it and she's like, I'll go back to this, but this is not what you're getting. And like she like made like 3 or 4 different things, and like that was the one that was like the most like that was the one that she like was like, okay, this is, what do you think of this? I was like, this is awesome. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna keep working on this until it's finished. And that's how the album art came out. So yeah.
And where is the original piece now?
It's hanging up in like our hallway somewhere. I would go get it, but it's like I'd have to go find it, but it's there. The original the Deal God demo art is like right there. It's like a Jesus picture that we found at like a thrift store, and it was my friend took a photo of it while hanging up on the wall, and I just used that and just like, you know, like use that as the album art. And the frame unfortunately broke, but the actual like pictures still
right there. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's it's somewhere. I wish I could bring it, but I don't remember exactly where she, but we've also just been cleaning the house, so it's like probably like not hung up somewhere, and it's like to the side somewhere before it gets hung up. We've been doing like pre-Christmas cleaning and shit, so
it's all good. It's all good. But I love that story, W fiance, for coming through.
Oh yeah, no, she killed it. Like, if there's anything, if like honestly, I would like to say that I used reverse psychology to do it, but really it was just me being like a doubtful partner, and that's my fault. But paid off, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Always put stock into your partner's art, because they'll surprise you. Okay. You know what? Let me rephrase that. I wasn't a denier. I just was like, I don't see any like, I don't know like you could or you couldn't, because I didn't. All of her stuff was thrown out. I didn't.
Yeah, there's no evidence. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's funny. But yeah.
All right. Last thing before we wrap up. January 1st.
I've been ranting. I'm sorry.
No, this is awesome. That's why I love having one. That's why I always ask you. But January 1st, 2025, Syracuse Hardcore New Year's Day matinee. I'm happy to see this tradition still going.
Most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah. Awesome lineup. I love Naysayer. So just to see Naysayer on a bill outside of Richmond again is so sick. The Next Level might be my favorite hardcore band right now. I can't get enough of that demo. That shit is so good. And obviously Cut Down. You mentioned them earlier. I love those guys. It's super awesome. Burning Lord, Jim D, please message me back. New World, man. Yeah. And then I wasn't familiar with Nature Unveiled, but hearing you talk about them, I'm definitely going to check them out. And then Dimension 6 from Richmond, sick band.
Yeah, no, it's the thing is like Lucas was like, as like fast, like more fests are happening. Like obviously United Blood's back, which is awesome. United Blood, I feel like, is like the biggest like influence for like my group of friends in terms of like our taste of hardcore. And Lucas is always trying to like be like, we always say, what is the most UB shit we can do? Because it's just like the way we look at like stuff like United Blood is like, it's just hardcore. There's no fucking spectacle. There's no fucking like, it's just like good hardcore by people who actually care about the craft. I always called it like the NHL of hardcore. You know what I mean? Definitely the NHL of moshing, because that is the one fest I was actually terrified to like mosh to. Like out of the most scared I've ever been. Seeing Dead End Dreaming in Richmond twice now. One time at United Blood, the second time like at the show that we played. I don't know. Virginia's psychotic. But I digress. Like once you get a couple of Virginia Beach people at your show, it's like I'm not on that dance floor. I am watching from the back. Yeah, no. The thing about New Year's Day is like Lucas was like, I mean, obviously he could speak better than I could, but it's harder to get bands to play New Year's Day because it's like obviously people either have New Year's Eve plans or people are preparing for FYA. So it's like it's been consistently getting harder and harder to like book for it. And I know what he's expressed to me is like, you run out of like he's always trying to get Earth Christ, he's always trying to get Path, stuff that he's always trying to do, and unfortunately has not been able to make it work out yet. But doing the Another Victim Promise reunion was cool. He got Killing Time to play, which was insane. Like, obviously when you get older bands, like they don't want to do New Year's shit. They want to be with their family. So getting them to play that shit is like awesome. But you start to like run out of options. And it's like, the thing about fests and stuff is like, how do you outdo the last one? And you get into that cycle of like, how do you undo the last one? And he was just like, fuck it. I'm just doing hardcore. Like, fuck this shit. I'm not saying like not saying like there's anything bad with like what he's done in the past, but he's like, I'm not gonna run into the cycle of like trying to like outdo the spectacle. He wants New Year's Day to be how it was back in the day, where it's just a showcase of like all really cool hardcore bands, whether it's like homies or like just like cool bands that we like. And like he's like all killer, no filler. He's having it downstairs because the biggest annoyance is like there's always people up on like the bleachers or balcony, like, and he says it's like it's always people looking down on people. It's like a metaphor. Like, why are you up there watching that? Be in the audience. No stage potato. Look, I mean, it's all floor shows, so no stage potatoes, but like the equivalent of like no cool kids corner, no bullshit. Like everyone in the basement of Silver Street, only like relevant, dope bands. Like like I said, no, all killer, no filler, like no dinner break shit. Like, not saying there was dinner break, but obviously when you have a shit ton of bands, like you got to keep the energy going, and there's like peaks and valleys. He's like, no, let's condense this shit. Let's make it like just a really awesome hardcore show. Cause he's like, I don't want it to be a fucking fest. You know what I mean? There's too many fests. He just wants it to be an awesome hardcore show. And like, I think this is like the best representation of like Syracuse's taste in hardcore. You have Naysayer, who's like Reaper era, which Reaper was out of Syracuse. Tom Dom's in the band. Like that is like last time Naysayer played Syracuse was like 2017. So it's cool to have them back. Obviously, everyone else is just like homies. Burning Lord, Cut Down, Dimension 6, and like, you know, it's just gonna be like a dope show. And that I think like there's no spectacle, there's no hoopla, there's no like surprise, like it's just hardcore. And that's like kind of like how we operate. Like it's just hardcore. Like sometimes just hardcore is like the perfect thing you need. And like, you know, it's cool to have like the Next Level on. Like we play with them at the Burning Lord record release, like just solid, like new band, like just doing hardcore, you know what I mean? Just hardcore, no hoopla, just hardcore. And you know, and then like it's cool. Nature Unveiled. I want to talk about this band for a second because like they are like one of my favorite like current Syracuse bands that like is like not my friend group. It's like all kids that like Brett has been going to shows for a minute and he's like, he gets it. Like he sings in that band. He played guitar with the drummer in another band called Hidden Streets, which like that was originally like kind of Holy Terror kind of stuff. But like seeing them kind of, like they have a promo, like a 3-song promo coming out, like a little EP coming out, like hopefully before New Year's Day. And like he sent me the mixes and it's like awesome. It's what the way I could describe it is like it's just like napalm death. It's grindcore, but not grindcore. It's like just like if grindcore focused on fucking hardcore, you know what I mean? Like the core part of grindcore, not just this weird metal subgenre. Like it's like they cover like Asuk or Asuk, however you want to pronounce it. They've covered like Napalm Death. But they have like, you know, all the things that you want out of like hardcore. They're fast, they're grindy, they're heavy. It's like the perfect amalgamation of like all those things, like tastefully. And yeah, I hope that band like really like gets a push. We're gonna be it's still in the works, but we're gonna hopefully be taking them on a run at some point. And yeah, I can't wait for people to hear like the 3-song EP that they have coming out because it's like it's fucking awesome. And hopefully a lot more people get exposed to that band because I think like they are like a band that like has their shit together and they're like, you know, humble and they're just stoked to play. And all those kids are dope. I mean, like all the kids are dope of all the bands. So I'm not trying to pick favorites, but yeah, like Nature Unveiled also checks the boxes of my sensibilities of hardcore. So obviously I have a little bit more of a bias towards them, but I think it's dope that they're playing. And obviously Street Hastle's playing. They didn't play last year, but Lucas has like a lot of like cool shit happening with Hassle coming up. Like they're gonna put out an EP hopefully soon. And yeah. New Year's Day is gonna be awesome. Oh, and also New World Man's playing, and that band's fucking insane. So it's cool to have them play because they don't really play that much. So having them play Syracuse is like really cool.
All right. Well, the future just keeps getting brighter and brighter for Syracuse hardcore. You guys gonna start it off with a bang, so that's awesome. And I really appreciate your time, Dylan. So thank you for being down to come back on the podcast again. But before we sign off,
talk for like 2 hours again.
Oh yeah, no, we can do this all day. But before we sign off, is there anything else you would like to say?
Yeah, we're working on an LP, hopefully soon. All for All is putting on an EP, hopefully coming out early 2025. It's done. Like it's all recorded. We just gotta get artwork done. Shout out Fortress Records. They're gonna be putting it out. New Ashara EP coming out. I think actually I'm not gonna say when, but it's coming very soon because I don't want to get it wrong and I don't want to speak for them because but the songs are awesome. Nature Unveiled coming out with new shit. I think X Threat's going to be working on an EP. Shout out Fatal Consequences. They just put out a demo. There's like always new Syracuse bands popping up. SYR Headhunters. There's another band I can't think of the name of that they're like in the works of. There's another band. I have it right here. It's like one word. It's like they're a screamo band. I can never remember. It's like an I Wrote Haikus About Cannibalism type beat. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, it's like, hang on, I gotta pull it up because I'm
curious.
I want to get everyone in. They're called. Shit, what the fuck are they called? This is embarrassing. I'm a terrible person.
No, the fact that you're looking to shout them out, no, this is awesome.
For I Could Only Dream, but it's all one word, all lowercase.
Okay.
Screamo shit. Of course is all one word. Of course is all lowercase. But they just put out some demo. Shout out Feast of Love, another Syracuse screamo band. Yeah, everyone. I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. If I forget anyone, I apologize. Yeah, hopefully this upcoming year is going to be like really solid. We already have a lot of stuff in the works that's going to be really cool. And yeah, shout out Hudson Valley for always being like #1 supporters of fucking Syracuse. Shout out New Jersey. Shout out like, I don't know, Western Mass. Shout out everybody. Shout out Virginia. Shout out Stockpile. But yeah, all right. That's all I got right now. But
okay, well, Dylan, this is awesome. I'm looking forward to doing this again next year. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back soon. I will rant
less next year. I apologize for ranting, but
no, we love it. The people who rant are the best. Yeah. FYI.
I hope my rants are cohesive. That's the thing.
Yeah, like, I hope people will understand. It was great. But thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will be back soon. Goodbye.
Take care, my man.